Welcome to the Inner Compass podcast show. I am your host, Jack Sinogo, and thank you for joining us on episode 7 of the Inner Compass podcast show. In this episode, we will explore overcoming fear and self-doubt. What are the root causes to fear and self-doubt? How much of our self-doubt comes from comparison and social media? What is the worst case scenario, and how likely is it to happen? And finally, we will discuss strategies for boosting confidence and embracing risks. The jump. Maya stood at the edge of the platform, 40 feet above the lake. The wind tugged at her shirt. Below, her friends were cheering, laughing, and waiting, but she couldn't move. Her knees felt locked, her chest was tight, and in her head, "You're not brave enough. You're gonna mess this up. Everyone will laugh." This wasn't really about the jump. It was about every time she held back, every time she doubted she was enough. The job interview she bailed on, the art she never shared, the apology she never made. Fear, disguised as logic, always won. And now a diving platform had become the symbol of all of it. She turned to step down again when she heard her younger cousin yell from below, "Come on, Maya, I know you can." Simple words, but something shifted. She didn't suddenly feel brave. She didn't silence the fear. She just decided it didn't get to drive her anymore. So she counted. 1, 2, 3, and she jumped. The fall was wild, terrifying, free. The water was cold and loud, and when she resurfaced, she was laughing so hard she cried. It wasn't the height she overcame. It was the fear she finally let go of. What are the root causes to fear and self-doubt? Fear and self-doubt often stem from a combination of past experiences, learned beliefs, and natural human instincts. At their core, these feelings are protective mechanisms designed to keep us safe from failure, rejection, embarrassment, or emotional pain. However, when they become persistent or excessive, they can limit our growth and potential. Past experiences have a profound impact on fear and self-doubt because they shape how we interpret new situations, assess risks, and evaluate our own capabilities. Our brains are wired to learn from experiences, especially emotionally charged ones, so we avoid danger. But this survival mechanism can also lead us to form limiting beliefs that hold us back. Here are some examples of how past experiences shape fear and self-doubt. Negative experiences create emotional imprints. If you ever failed, been rejected, embarrassed, or hurt in the past, your mind stores that as a warning. It might say, "Remember how that felt? Don't do it again." Or, "You've tried and failed before. What makes this time different?" This can cause hesitation, avoidance, and a fear of trying again, even if the circumstances are completely different. Repetition reinforces beliefs. The more often you experience criticism, failure, or exclusion, the more likely you are to develop internalized beliefs like, "I am not good enough," "I always mess things up," or "People won't accept me if I fail." Learned beliefs also play a huge role in shaping fear and self-doubt because they form an internal lens through which we interpret ourselves, others, and the world. These beliefs are usually absorbed from early life, culture, education, and repeated experiences, and over time, they become automatic truths that guide behavior, often without us even realizing it. Here's how learned beliefs impact fear and self-doubt. They create limiting narratives. Learned beliefs like "I am not smart enough," "People like me don't succeed," or "I must not fail" become stories we tell ourselves. These beliefs narrow what we think is possible, can cause hesitation or avoidance, or reinforce a fear of judgment, failure, or exposure. Learned beliefs also reinforce self-doubt through confirmation bias. Once a belief is formed, your mind tends to look for evidence to support it and ignore evidence that contradicts it. This is called confirmation bias. If you ever believe "I am not capable," you'll notice mistakes and overlook your wins. Even when you succeed, you might downplay it as luck or assume it was a fluke. This strengthens self-doubt and keeps you stuck in a cycle of fear. Our natural human instincts also play a foundational role in the development of our fear and self-doubt because they're hardwired into our biology for survival. While these instincts are essential for keeping us safe, they can sometimes overreact or misfire in modern life, especially in emotional, social, or performance-based situations. Here's how our natural instincts contribute to fear and self-doubt. Fight, flight, or freeze. The survival brain. Our brains are wired to prioritize safety. The amygdala, a small part of the brain, scans for danger 24/7. When it senses a threat, real or imagined, it triggers fear-based responses. Fight, get defensive or aggressive. Flight, avoid the situation entirely. Freeze, shut down, go blank, or stay stuck. This response worked well when a threat was a wild animal, but today the threat might be public speaking, starting something new, taking a risk in your career, or being judged or rejected. Even though these aren't life-threatening, the body reacts as if they are, causing fear, anxiety, or paralysis. Another example of how our natural instincts contribute to fear and self-doubt is through fear of rejection or fear of social death. As social creatures, humans evolved to depend on group acceptance for survival. In early tribes, being rejected could literally mean death. That legacy still lives in us. We fear being embarrassed, left out, or judged. We avoid visibility or vulnerability, even when we want to speak up or lead. This creates self-doubt. Will they accept me? Am I good enough? Ultimately, fear and self-doubt are part of being human, but when we understand where they come from, we can begin to challenge them, not by eliminating them entirely, but by choosing not to let them control our lives. How much of our self-doubt comes from comparison and social media? A significant portion of modern self-doubt stems from comparison and social media, especially in today's hyper-connected world. While it's difficult to assign an exact percentage because self-doubt is influenced by many factors, many researchers and psychological insights have shown that social media is one of the most powerful drivers of self-doubt in a digital age. Here's 3 reasons why and how. Social media amplifies comparison. Social media platforms create a constant stream of curated content where people highlight achievements, physical appearances, relationships, lifestyles, and material success. Even though we know these are filtered snapshots, our brains still compare their best moments to our average ones, which creates a false sense of inadequacy. Social media rewires our internal value system. Social media subtly teaches us to measure our values externally. Likes equal validation, followers equal popularity, engagement equal worthiness. This creates a dopamine-driven feedback loop where a lack of attention can feel like rejection-fueled self-doubt. And finally, social media creates social pressure and identity confusion. Social media blurs the line between who we are and who we think we should be. This can lead to constant comparison to unrealistic standards, performance-based identities, and feeling like we're not enough in any area. Here are some practical ways to reduce self-doubt caused by social media. One thing you could do is curate your feed intentionally, meaning control what you consume. Unfollow or mute accounts that make you feel inadequate or pressured to compare. Prioritize content that uplifts, educate, or encourages self-compassion. Another thing you can do is to set boundaries and breaks, meaning using social media as a tool, not a lifeline. Limit your screen time. Also, take regular digital detox days to reset your perspectives. And finally, another thing you can do is to reconnect with your offline confidence, meaning building your real confidence in real life. Invest time in hobbies, conversations, or environments where you feel strong and present. Spend time with people who see and affirm the real you, not just your online persona. The main takeaway is that while social media isn't inherently bad, awareness, boundaries, and digital detoxes can help reduce comparison-driven doubt. Building your self-worth on internal values, not external applauses, is key to long-term confidence. What is the worst-case scenario, and how likely is it to happen? Let me tell you a short story about fear, self-doubt, and the simple question that changed everything. The pitch. Jenny was sitting outside the conference room, hands trembling, heart racing. She was just minutes away from presenting her first big idea to the executive team. In her mind, the spiral had already started. What if I mess this up? What if I stumble on my words? What if I'm not good enough? Sounds familiar? She thought about walking away, backing out, pretending she was sick. That voice of fear, it was loud, real, convincing. But then she remembered something her mentor had told her. When fear takes over, ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario, and how likely is it to happen? So she did. She paused, took a deep breath, and thought, worst case? They don't like the idea. Maybe someone asks a tough question I can't answer. Maybe I feel embarrassed. Then she asked herself, is it really that bad? Will I lose my job? No. Will I be humiliated forever? Probably not. The fear was still there, but now it had shape. It had limits. Then she asked a different question. What is the best that could happen? They love it. They fund it. I grow. And that was enough. She walked into the room. Was she perfect? No. But she stood up, spoke clearly, and shared her idea. They asked questions, some skeptical, some curious, some excited. But here's the truth. She did it. Not because she was afraid, but because she saw fear for what it was, a voice, not a verdict. So next time fear and self-doubt shows up, ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario, and how likely is it to happen? You might just find that fear shrinks and your courage grows. Most of the time, fear lives in the unknown. When you define the worst case scenario and realize it's survivable, you take back control. The goal isn't to eliminate risk, but to stop letting exaggerated fear make your decisions. Strategies for boosting confidence and embracing risk. Building confidence and embracing risk, especially in the face of fear and self-doubt, requires a mindset and habit shift, as well as practical action in your daily life. Here's a breakdown of 3 effective strategies and practical steps you can implement. Number 1, reframing fear and risk. The strategy here is to shift your mindset around fear and risk to opportunity. Rename fear. Instead of saying I'm scared to pursue this endeavor, say I'm excited to challenge myself with this new endeavor. Ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? Pull out a piece of paper and pen. Write it down. Truly reflect on worst case scenarios. Most fears, when examined, lose their grip and power over you. And finally, reframe failure as feedback. Treat each risk as a learning opportunity, not a final judgment. Number 2, build confidence with small wins. The strategy here is consistency. Confidence grows from action. Start small, stay consistent. Set mini goals. Accomplish one small thing a day that challenges your comfort zone. Keep a journal where you log wins, compliments, and progress. And do one brave thing daily, even if it's saying no, asking a question, or speaking up. And finally, number 3, cultivate self-belief through self-talk. The strategy here is to train your inner voice to be an internal coach and not a self-critic. Use affirmations grounded in truth. For example, you could say, I've handled hard things before. I've got through it before. I can do this. Challenge your inner critic. Ask yourself, Would I say this to a friend or a loved one? If the answer is no, change your narrative. And finally, use statements like I am becoming. I am becoming more confident each day. I am becoming better and better each day. Statements like this allows for growth and positive mindset. At the end of the day, confidence isn't about being fearless. It's about being willing to feel and embrace the fear and still move forward. If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done. Thomas Jefferson. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of the Inner Compass podcast show. We've unpacked what fear and self-doubt really are. Not signs of weakness, but natural responses rooted in past experiences, learned beliefs, and even our survival instincts. We talked about how social media and comparison culture can magnify those feelings, how defining worst-case scenarios can give fear less power, and how small, consistent steps can build real, lasting confidence. We heard the stories of Maya and Jenny, the two women who, like many of us, face that familiar inner voice that whispers, "You're not ready, you're not brave enough." But they didn't let it win. They felt the fear and chose to move anyway, and so can you. When fear shows up, and it will, ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? What is the best that can happen? And what would I do if I believe I could? You don't need to be fearless to take action. You just need to stop letting fear make your decisions. Because courage isn't loud, it's quiet, it's counting to 3 and jumping. Ever wondered how the things you say to yourself affect how you feel? Tune in next time as we explore the impact of self-talk on your mental health. Until next time, keep following your inner compass, be kind to yourself, be bold with your life, and remember, you are becoming more confident each day, one brave step at a time. Thank you.